Our second speaker for the evening, Melanie Stark, is a professional speaker and an educational coach. She worked in the entertainment industry for over a decade before earning her master's in education and becoming a teacher, and an advocate for educational reform. She is a unique motivational speaker in that she believes in providing a practical and realistic motivation. So are you ready to hear what Melanie has to say tonight? Please put your hands together for our second speaker, Melanie Stark.
Have any of you ever been this close to everything you ever wanted, just to find out that it was just out of reach? Kind of like how I want to step forward right here and Skip is waving at me. No, it's just out of reach. It's like something or someone is keeping you from driving that new car when you just got your driver's license. You ever felt that way? Yeah, well, I felt that way literally the day I got my driver's license when I was 16 years old. Okay, I was able to drive my car, but the first place that I went was to my best friend's house. I ran into her house to announce to her entire family that I had just gotten my license. I got my license, I got my license, I got my license. I went running through her hallways, forgetting that her two brothers sometimes had their friends over staying the night. I stopped short because I saw this guy I had never met before who was laying on their couch. He had long blonde hair. He looked like my parents' worst nightmare. Hi, I don't think I know you. I'm Melanie. Scott, he said, looking up at me with very sleepy and annoyed eyes that I had woken him up. Hi, Scott. Nice to meet you. I just got my driver's license. I got my license. I got my license. I got my license. And I went running out the front door, off to my next friend's house to wake up her family and do the same thing. Now, as luck would have it, Scott and I ran into each other again a couple weeks later. And one thing led to another, and we began a whirlwind romance. And when you're 16 years old, you feel like that's going to last forever. Scott treated me like I was the only woman in the world, and I thought I was a princess. I learned later that this stage of a relationship is called love bombing. And it can happen in the beginning, when everything is new and fresh. But the first thing that started happening was that Scott was a little bit jealous. He didn't really like me hanging out with other boys. And I thought it was cute that he was jealous, so I stopped hanging out with boys. Then he decided there were some girls that were a bad influence on me. So I stopped hanging out with them too. And slowly but surely, my friendships chipped away until I didn't have a whole lot of people left in my life. And he wasn't just jealous of people, but he was also jealous of my accomplishments. So when I graduated high school, after he had dropped out of high school, and my family threw me a graduation party, he was very jealous of the attention that I was getting. So I decided that I could handle the jealousy. I would be okay. And I went on to go to community college because I still had this drive in me. I was going to accomplish something. And I decided that I was going to own my dream car. Are you guys ready to know what my dream car was? I know you're on the edge of your seats. I'm going to make you wait. So I worked 2 jobs to buy this car and went to school. And the day I drove it off the used car lot, I felt like $1 million. It was a teal Geostorm. Okay, it was the 90s, and I was in college. I'm a realist, okay? But I loved this car. It had that new car smell, like a used car that they put the new car smell thing in. Anyway, it felt amazing, right? I was like 18 years old. I was so excited. Drove this car. The problem was, Scott felt like anything that was mine was also his. And so he would take my car and be gone with it for days at a time. Meanwhile, I was trying to make payments on it and go to school, and I was stuck riding the bus, not knowing where he was. So I finally decided to bring this to his attention. And it was really interesting what happened, because somehow he convinced me that what I was seeing in front of my face was not real. That I was making it all up. That I was crazy. And I started getting very confused. What I thought was real wasn't real. I was crazy. I would be a failure without him in my life. I've come to understand that this term is called gaslighting. Have any of you ever experienced this? It's very confusing and disorienting. And he was really good at it. So I started to question my own reality. But I kept going. I just felt like that young girl that went running through the house that was so excited to get her driver's license was not left. That all there was left was the shell of that person. But I kept going, and I got a scholarship. It was only $500, but this scholarship meant the world to me, because that meant that I wasn't a failure. I really could do it. So the first place I went was to tell Scott, guess what? I'm not a failure. I'm not crazy. I can accomplish things. I can do this. I don't know why I thought he would be excited for me. But that day turned into one of the worst nights of my life. What happened was, he began a line of questioning that night. A line of questioning that I didn't understand. He kept saying, when did you cheat on me? How many times have you cheated on me? Who did you cheat on me with? And I was like, what are you talking about? I've never cheated on you. I wouldn't do that. But this line of questioning kept going and going. And then things started getting a little bit weird. My reality started to swirl around me. My vision started going in and out. I didn't understand what was happening. I wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to sleep. But he just kept questioning over and over. How many times have you cheated on me? Who did you cheat on me with? When did you cheat on me? And finally I said, okay, I cheated on you, okay? Is that what you wanted to hear? And that was all the fuel he needed. And he took a baseball bat to that car that I had worked so hard for. And my entire little $500 scholarship went to just trying to repair the windshield so I could get to where I needed to go. I found out later the reason why everything started going a little weird is that he'd been drugging me. Now, I have a feeling that right now some of you are probably asking a question in your head. I'm just going to guess. You're saying, why in the world would she stay with this guy? Yeah, I see some nodding. I'm pretty sure that's what you're thinking. It's okay. I've wondered this myself many, many, many times. And if you haven't experienced this yourself, I'm almost certain that you've seen someone you care about in a relationship like this and wondered, why are they not leaving? I have been trying to figure this out my entire life. Why didn't I just leave? In doing lots of soul searching for the last 20 years, I began to research my ancestors. And what I found out was that my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother had all been victims of domestic violence at one point or another. And on top of that, I belonged to a religion that taught that men serve God and women serve their husbands. Now, I want to be fair, because not everybody who went to this church left with that same message, but that was the message that the teachers that I had gave me. And to add to this, I was a little girl of the 80s. So what did we watch in the 80s? Do you guys remember all the Disney movies? What did we have? Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, all the women who get rescued by the guys. And then, of course, there's my favorite, The Little Mermaid. Right? The woman who gives up her voice for a man. So all of these things were creating this false cultural narrative. It's a false cultural narrative of toxic masculinity. And I want to be really clear when I say that. I'm not trying to pick on the guys in the audience at all. Because toxic masculinity hurts everybody. Okay? It teaches women that we aren't capable of doing things on our own. That we need a man to come and rescue us. And it teaches men that they have to be these big heroes. And that they can't have the emotions that they're naturally going to feel. And they don't have proper outlets to release those emotions. I don't remember the exact moment that Scott first punched me in the face. But I remember tremendous relief that I felt when he did. Because at least 3 years of emotional abuse had been going on. And when that abuse finally turned physical, it finally transmuted into physical pain, it was so much easier. And I know that sounds weird, but it was actually a relief. Because finally, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew what was going on. But you know what was crazy? Is that it still took me another almost 3 years to actually get out of the relationship. And now I understand that I was in what's called a trauma bond. And a trauma bond happens in patterns of cyclical abuse. So you remember we talked about love bombing in the beginning. That's when everything is good. When you're in a relationship like this, things are good. They're really, really good. Like, so good that it's almost worth staying. But then the gaslighting will begin. Then more and more things will happen until you hit a point when it gets really bad. And then right after that, the love bombing begins again. It's like cocaine. You start to look forward to the bad times because you know the good times are right around the corner. Only the good times start to get shorter and shorter, and the bad times get longer and longer. finally got out of my trauma bond. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But I have a formula, and I want to give this to you guys tonight. A formula that actually got me out and freed me from this trauma bond. And there's 3 steps to it. So step number 1 is you've got to accept reality. And the hard part about this is we're told by a lot of the self-help gurus out there that don't be a victim. Don't be stuck in a victim mentality. But you know what? I'm not saying you need to stay in a victim mentality. We're going to get you out of that. But in the beginning, you need to accept what's really happening. This is dark. You're a victim of abuse. But the second step is empowerment. So here's how let me start with these first 2 steps so I can really explain how they work. Step number 1, when you're in that dark part, you're going to sit down and you're going to write out a list of all the reasons you're angry. All the bad stuff. And I know this is hard, and I want you to do it until you're like ugly crying. Really hard. Because our imagination is stronger than knowledge. And so when we step away from these relationships, all we can remember is the good stuff. So we need to remember that bad stuff, even if it hurts. You're going to write this down, and then you're going to fold it up and put it in an envelope. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to write a letter of empowerment. So this is step 2. So my letter of empowerment went something like this. Dear Melanie, I know you're going through a tough time right now. I know you want to call him, you want to go to his house, you want to fall for his lies again. I didn't have social media back then, but I'm sure I would have wanted to stalk him on social media if that was a thing. I know you're going through a tough time right now, but you're stronger than that. You're better than that. And I promise you someday you're going to use this tough time as a stepping stone to something great in your life. Someday you're going to get on a stage and you're going to talk to a group of people and you're going to help them to get out of their trauma bonds. But no matter what, no matter how hard it gets, I got you. I love you. Love, Melanie. My letter went something like that. Anyway, you're going to take that letter and you're going to fold it up and you're going to put that in front of the anger list in that same envelope. And you're going to carry that envelope around with you everywhere you go. So how it worked for me was every time I felt that urge, and sometimes it was a few times a day, I'd pull out that letter of empowerment and I'd read it. And for the first few months, that letter didn't work. And I had to pull out the anger list and go back to that dark place. But little by little, after a few months, I only needed my letter of empowerment. And that was enough. And then, after a few years, I barely ever pulled out my envelope at all. It took a long time. It'll take as long as it takes. But there's step 3. And this step, you cannot skip over. So we talked about step number 1, accept reality. Step number 2, empowerment. Step number 3, mindfulness. Mindfulness is absolutely key to this working. And it's not like you can just go on YouTube and do some guided meditation and think that that's going to be okay. Nope. You got to enroll in a class. Enroll in a class that you got to pay for, something you have to be accountable to the teacher and other students for. You got to be accountable to your bank account for it, but you got to go to this. Now, mindfulness can be many, many things. You could enroll in a yoga class, a meditation class, breath work. I used Qigong and Tai Chi. Those were mine. Martial arts are great. Anything like that that's going to get you into your present moment, that's going to help you find your center, that's going to keep you going. And it needs to be at least twice a week. But this step is absolutely key to the other two working. Using this formula, I was able to get out. And when I finally got out of this relationship, my world opened up. I thought that I had my sights set high before. I thought that I was goal-oriented. But as soon as I dropped this dead weight out of my life at community college, I dropped that too. I went to England, got my bachelor's degree. I got my master's degree. I went on to run an entertainment company on my own. Things that I never dreamed possible. I would have never even imagined were possible before. It's the power of getting through something dark. Here's the thing. When you go through dark times in your life, you can't go around it. You can't go under it, can't go over it, you can't go around it. You got to go through it. But that other side, you guys, that other side of that tunnel is like better than you can even perceive in your imagination until you get there. The greatest thing that happened after this is I met my husband, Chris, and we've been married for 16 years now. He's not here tonight because he's home with our two beautiful children, because he supports me, and he supports my vision and the things I want to do in my life. And just a few years ago, he actually bought me a car. It was a minivan, it was for our family, but the symbology of that to me, and I don't even think he even understands that. The empowerment that he gave me to get from where I am to where I want to be in life. He handed me the keys, not just to my car, but to my life. And the thing is, I didn't need him to hand them to me. He only enhanced my life. But the truth is, my driver's license, that was mine all along. I was just driving the wrong car.